Okay, who here hasn't been to space? Why? You better not throw up on my ship.
Approaching jump in 3, 2, 1.
I got tagged in this on Twitter yesterday, and make sure I find it here so you guys can see it. Now, everyone is aware of everyone knows that New Rockstars has who New Rockstars is. Eric Voss, we've discussed Eric Voss and his comments that he made on Recast. Well, now MT has come out and made comments on Recast. And I'm going to read this to you guys so you guys can, if you haven't already seen it or anything like that, I'll read it so you know what he said. Now, you cannot go and comment on this because he made sure before he tweeted this out that he turned the comments off. For good reason. The Snyder Cut and Recast T'Challa motherfuckers really don't know when it's over, huh? Sigh. I suppose that stages of grief have to be gone through, unfortunately. But damn, it's not that deep. James Gunn and Kevin Feige both consistently produce comic book bangers. Chill out. Like it's wild how neither of these two cults realize how being toxic and annoying doesn't inspire anyone. It just makes normal, chill comic book movie lovers look as unhinged as you act. And creatives less likely to listen to fans. Just because you're loud doesn't make you right. And you're also not the only fans in the world who care about these characters. Marvel Studios and now recently DC give a shit about these characters. Marvel Studios and now recently DC give a shit about these characters and want to produce meaningful, dope shit. And they most likely know about those characters. And they most likely know more about those characters than you do. Be calm. I'm not calm.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm not calm is because it's not about Recast at this point. It's not about T'Challa. Well, it is about T'Challa at this point still, but that's not where I'm coming from with this, really. I'm going to go back to the top here really quick where he said, but damn, it's not that deep. To whom? To you? Because that shit's subjective too. Now, I've sat and I've watched MT get up on New Rockstars and talk and host and things like that. And it's very evident that he is on a completely different side of the fence than most of us for Recast are. Now, he's not come out on New Rockstars and said anything, anti-Recast. This is the first time I've seen him say something anti-Recast. Now, I've seen him in videos that they've done say things like, oh, he doesn't think that T'Challa should be recast for his own personal reasons or whatever. And you can have those reasons. But when you come out and you make statements like this, but it's not that deep, again, to whom? Mm-hmm. To whom it's not that deep? Because it's not that deep when you talk base level. But when we talk, as we've talked before, about the importance of T'Challa, the importance of why the character was created, my brother, if I can call you that, it is that deep. It becomes that deep because we've seen the conversations. Hell, you say recast T'Challa motherfuckers really don't know when it's over, huh? When again, I've said this before too, and I'm about to show a video really quick after I say this. I've said this before too. Had our ancestors had that pathetic mentality, had our forefathers, our ones that our ancestors that came before us that fought for the rights that you and I have today, MT, for you to get up there and be able to have the Twitter fingers that you have, our ancestors that fought for that shit, if they had that weak ass mentality, we'd still be at the back of the bus. We'd still be in separate restrooms, separate shopping establishments, separate schools, separate jobs. If that was the mentality. And I'm not going to sit here and say, because I can hear it, are you putting Recast T'Challa on the same level as the civil rights movement? No. But the plight is fucking the same. The plight is the same. We're asking to be seen. We're asking to be heard. We are asking you to put a character back on screen that meant so much during the civil rights movement. But for you to come out and say it's not that deep, again, that shit's subjective. Just because you don't give a shit about T'Challa, just because you don't give a shit about the culture, just because you are sitting on the outside of the community and instead of in here with us actually understanding what the character means, it may not be that deep. But for you to come out and then say, cult-like? I'm gonna get to that in a second, but I do want to play this video. I want to play this video. This was also sent to me. Damson Idris did an interview 9 months ago where he was asked about Recast T'Challa. But it's not even, again, I'm not making this about Recast T'Challa, really. I am, but I'm not. It's deeper than that. Especially with what he said. It's deeper than that. And I'm going to go on, I'm going to finish it. But he talks about where, and I'm hoping this finds its way to MT. Because maybe he needs to see this, not what I'm saying, but maybe he needs to see what Damson is about to say. Because he goes deeper than T'Challa and the importance of characters like T'Challa.
Now there's a call for you to replace Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa. I know about it because I signed up to agree that you should.
Oh,
Black Panther should not die. I know that we want to honor Chadwick Boseman, but you got to keep that character. Where else do we see that level of superhero that comes out of Africa? And then people are like, not a British act. I'm like, he's African. He's Nigerian. Can
they just don't want me to act at all, man.
They don't want you to eat, brother. So how do you, and I know you're sensitive to it because I can see you, you're like, I'm not trying to have no problems here. But no, you do know that there is this chasm that people want, this wedge, whether it's Daniel Kaluuya or not David Yellow and or Chill 12. I can't say his name either. Jafor.
Yeah.
How do you navigate those spaces when people are saying to you, you don't belong here?
It's disheartening because on one hand, I'm 30 years old and from birth, all I've been taught is African-American history in school. I wasn't taught Black British history. I was learning about Malcolm.
Pause. How? Who? What school did you go to? Because we don't learn that here in America. We got this CRT problem right now. They don't want us to learn anything.
We learned about Malcolm X. We learned about Martin Luther King. And we learned about African leaders too, Mandela and everyone. So we were just well versed on a global scale of what Black people have contributed to the world, and they've contributed a lot. My knowledge goes back all the way to Oluwadu Equiano, who was one of the first playwrights that no one talks about, who was an African slave that sold rum and bought his freedom, and then fought for the abolishment of slavery, and was one of the first Black writers, and won a bunch of awards. Like my history goes so far back. So I hope the people that say these things travel, because travel is the cure to all ignorance. And, if you go to where I came up in London, you'll understand that it ain't next to Buckingham Palace. If you go to Africa, you're going to see people in complete turmoil. And we're not comparing traumas. We're trying to create unity. We're stronger together. And that's not why I play characters that are American. I play characters that are American because America is very, very dope. America is amazing. I love America. The majority of my adulthood has been in America. And I just feel like we're stronger together, and, to all those out there that are listening who oppose what I'm saying, understand, man, I'm fighting for everyone that looks like me, man. I'm fighting for everyone, but more specifically, I'm fighting for everyone that looks like me. I'm fighting for everyone. I'm trying to push us forward. And when I'm in rooms with people who are moguls, who are bosses, I'm not talking about the betterment of Black British culture. I'm not talking about the betterment of African culture. I'm talking about the betterment of everyone. I'm trying to push everyone forward so that we could collaborate. And when we do, we see what happens. Everyone in Black Panther wasn't American. That movie made billions of dollars. That's a sign. And that's what we need to keep fighting for. That's what we need to keep pushing for. And that's why I do what I do.
I'm gonna let that sit for a minute.
So the reason I even showed that, because somebody might say, well, what's the relevance? The reason I show that is to go back to what MT originally said there. It's not that deep. It's deeper than you realize. There's a reason that he went on and said the things that he was saying. Now, he obviously, like she said, that's a touchy subject. If I'm an actor too, Yolande Noel came out and said, yes, he would love to. But that is a touchy, it's a touchy topic.
Yeah.
So I can see where he didn't want to go in on, yeah, you know, cast me as T'Challa. I think that the character, da, 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 da. Now, he could have said, I think that the character, but I think he said that without actually saying it in his statement.
Yeah, he basically agreed with her saying that.
Yeah,
So,
that these characters are important, not just that these characters are important, but just the importance of our history in general. The importance of knowing where we come from. So you might be thinking to yourself, all this over a Black Panther comic? That's what these comics were created for.
yes.
That's what these comics were created for.
Yeah.
Yes, all this for a Black Panther comic.
Mm-hmm.
And then the when you move it down to what he said, then he said, like it's wild how neither of these two cults realize how being toxic and annoying doesn't inspire anyone. Again, to whom?
Mm-hmm.
Who? I could say that this tweet is toxic and annoying.
Yeah.
I could throw that same shoe on your foot. And then when you sit here and say, that doesn't inspire anyone, I have subscribers that would disagree. I have other people that would disagree. That is inspiring. Actually, I had a conversation with somebody that doesn't know shit about the stuff we talk about. Asked me about Wakanda Forever. And I told them what I thought. And after because they saw it, and after then they know I have a YouTube channel. But after they saw that and everything and heard what I had to say, that makes sense. I see what you're saying. Blah, blah, X, Y, and Z. So no, it might be toxic and annoying to you because you might be confused of where you come from. But for those of us that are well aware of where we come from, for those of us that are well aware of why Black representation is important, and don't hit me with that bullshit, that Black representation still in the MCU. I had that conversation last night in the chat. Just because you throw a Don Cheadle in an Ocean's 13, 12, or whatever fuck one he's in, does not make it Black representation. Just because you choose to make Yahya Abdul-Mateen II Wonder Man, White Wonder Man, that's not representation because he's still telling a white man's stories. I've said that before. All these things I've said. So just because he's confused of where he comes from, the rest of us are not. So yes, it is that deep, and no, it's not annoying to those of us that know where we come from. It is inspiring. Because somebody might have felt the same way that he felt about Martin Luther King. I wish this nigga would shut up. There were people that felt that fucking way. They assassinated his ass.
Yeah.
I wish this nigga would shut up. Get that fucking jigaboo off the fucking stage. All that shit.
Yeah.
I'm sure people thought he was annoying too, but there was a mass amount of people behind him that found the brother inspiring. So again, I'm not trying to compare the two civil rights movements to the recast of T'Challa, but honestly, because of the background of the character, because of when the character was created, they are tied. It's tethered. It's tethered to our culture. It's tethered to our community. And again, it baffles me when I have people from our own community coming out and saying shit like this. And the last thing I'll say on it, from the last thing that he had to say, I don't care about that part. Just because you're loud doesn't make you right. Okay, I don't care about that part. This part. Marvel Studios and now recently DC give a shit about these characters and want to produce meaningful dope shit. I'm trying to gather the words. In what way have you, MT, seen that Marvel gives a shit about these characters? Marvel doesn't give a shit. I have a track record, bro, of Nate fucking Moore, Marvel's vice, whatever his title is, saying why they don't hire comic readers. Saying why they don't do this or why they don't do that. In the interview where he said, sometimes the fans think they know what they want, but you gotta block that out. Marvel gives a shit about these characters? Marvel doesn't give a shit about these characters.
These niggas is replaceable from what I'm seeing.
Right?
And apparently recently DC.
Marvel doesn't give a shit about these characters. They want to expunge T'Challa.
Yeah.
They have changed, and it's the MCU. You can do what you want with the MCU. That's fine. That's fine. As I said in this stream and last night, I have accepted that shit. Do what you want to. If it completely deviates from the comics, deviate. It's the MCU. Do what you want. But what we're not gonna do is we're not gonna pretend or make some characters important, like as the chat was saying about Cassie Lang being recasted so many times, Thunderbolt Ross being recasted, and then we look at T'Challa and say, well, just be damned.
Yeah.
That doesn't show me that the studios give a shit about the character. At all. Mm-hmm. When you have killed a character that fans have been waiting 50 plus fucking years for, before I even knew what a T'Challa was, they knew. They read. These kids are adults now. Just because pictures are in black and white, stop thinking that shit was ages ago. These are adults now. My grandmother was alive during the Civil Rights Movement. Yep. These are adults now that read these comics, that waited and waited and waited to see this character. Yep. So don't tell me that Marvel gives a shit about these characters, because if they did, they wouldn't have made this fucking selfish decision that they made. And then the last thing he said, and they most likely know more about these characters than you do. Really? They haven't shown it. Yeah. They've not shown it.
Maybe than him. That's clear.
Yes, maybe again, maybe more than you. But no, they haven't shown it. Mm-hmm. So, I thought that this tweet was extremely left for me. It was just like, bro, you're coming, again, this is where that coming into spaces when you don't know what you're talking about. This is really the last thing I'm saying. Because I just had an argument, and I haven't done this in a while. I had a disagreement going back and forth with someone on Twitter. I just had an argument with someone on Twitter that, you know, we basically got down to the point where I told him, you're coming into these spaces as if, like, because the way he was coming at me was as if I tweeted him. No, you tweeted me. But he had been tweeting all day. Like it started that morning, and then he had found other stuff that I had said from the past, like from months ago, and commented on that. And my thing is with these anti-recasters or people that don't see eye to eye, if you don't agree, why are you digging through a catalog of my tweets to find more shit to disagree with, to stir the pot? So no, it's not us that's the cult, annoying, toxic ones. Mm-hmm. It's the anti-recasters, because we could do it. We don't go seeking them out. Mm-hmm. Now, and I'll say this too. There are, when it comes anytime, just like with anything, there's going to be a group of people that, like with the hashtag, there are people that stand on what the hashtag was built on. But then there are people that take the hashtag and say whatever they want to say with it. Of course. That does not speak for the entire group at all. Yeah. Like, you can't look at that and say, oh, well, that's the entire group. There's a distinction between a movement and the people in the movement. And somehow we keep coming back to that part of the conversation. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if you're going to tweet shit out like that, step your shit up and make it to where people can comment back to you. Right. Because that's cowardly to me. To put something out there and then make it null and void for people to say something back to you, because you know you would have got that heat. You know you would have got that fire if you would have went in there on some bullshit like that and left the comments available for people to talk back. I'd stick to new Rockstars. I'd stick to what Eric is telling you to do. That's what I have to say on it. So, anything from anyone that anyone would like to say?
It's weird how he brings up grief at the beginning, because it just shows how much he's missing the boat on this, because our whole point has been that we understand grieving a man who actually died. T'Challa is a fictional character. That is a different thing. This whole time, he's acting like we're whining and grieving a comic book character. The whole thing was about them saying we need to grieve Chadwick Boseman in this way, but all you're doing is taking away the greatest symbol of black excellence and strength, and we're talking about civil rights. It's the history. It was from the civil rights. Stan Lee fought him tooth and nail on the name Black Panther. They wanted him to have a different name because they were like, this is going to cause problems because of the Black Panthers during the Civil Rights Movement. He said, I know you think that I don't know why I picked that name. It was specific. And look at those black kids back then reading and seeing, because white kids, my grandpa's age, he got to read Superman comics. He got to see stuff like that. This was the first time those kids got to see, and like you said, we like to think that we're so removed from all this stuff, but it wasn't that fucking long ago. It is insane how recent it is. And I mean, even civil rights movements happened, yes, and there's big leaps. We had Martin Luther King, we had Malcolm X, and they stood in the gap, and there were brave people who had dogs sicked on them, who had hoses sprayed on them, who had who did time in jail just for simply taking a seat in a restaurant in a white section, that fought all this shit, and that then all these years later, and we get them for a couple movies, and and everyone's supposed to shut up and stop whining. Like, come on,
they got their Superman.
Yes, they did, and that meant so much that entire time, and it is so unfortunate that Chadwick Boseman passed, not just because he was Black Panther, but because from all accounts, he was a good, moral, kind man who you never hear a bad word about. And a man who, and I get that I'm the white guy on the channel right now, but who understood the plight of black people and who cared. Listen to any interview. His whole thing was about that. So when he says it's not that deep, Chadwick Boseman thought that it was deep. You may not think that it's deep.
That,
but Chadwick Boseman understood the brevity of what this role was, the history of it. And if he's going to talk about how, they make great movies and it's people whining who don't know the character. No, they know. Not only do we know the character, so we know whether or not, a storyline they do is bullshit, we know what it stood for, what it has always stood for. And the fact that they are taking that away is just asinine, and he is not getting it clearly. And as a white guy, I scratch my head when I hear black people take this stance. And I get that everybody can have their own opinion, but I just don't get wanting to take away that representation as, like you said, as true representation. Just throwing a black character in, or a wonder why he's black man, that's not the same. This is very specific. This is showing an uncolonized Africa, potential of Africa, not torn apart by Europe, not affected, not any of that. They were untouched. They are advanced. They are smart. They are strong. It is showing black people for what they are, not for what the people who have subjugated that for however long. It used to be a thing. You weren't allowed, a black man on television can't win a fight against a white person. The things that black boxers used to have to go through, they couldn't trust what was in their water. If they were fighting the Great White Hope, you think that they weren't messing with them, they weren't setting them up to fail, because what was important was to not show a black man as strong during that time. And it was fucked up, and it was disgusting, and we know why it was. And it was out of fear.
Come on, Kellen.
I'm sorry, this is just truth. This is what you're now saying all these years later, and like you said, that has been fought for. And he's just saying, well, to hell with that. That is what that represents. And you have to understand the history that at the time that Stanley wrote this character, that literally Jack Dempsey was heavyweight champion of the world. He drove across a border with a white woman, and he got a ticket. They said it's $100. He handed the guy $200. The cop said, I said it's only $100. He said, well, I'm going to have to cross back. You'll see me tomorrow. It's covered. And that was a guy who had some principles. But no, seriously, during this time, it was about presenting black men as weak. And this combated that. And now in 2022, you have people who don't understand that context and who are literally saying that is not needed on the screen.
Right.
But I'm sorry, my kids are going to be half black. I want them to have that to look at. I want them to understand the strength of their culture. I want them to understand the strength within them. The amazing art. He was talking. I'm sorry. I know I'm ranting. I know I'm ranting. But
Stupid.
Dude, he was talking about, and she was shocked because she's like, oh, you learned about African American history because we sure don't in America. Apparently, you do in Britain. You know what we're taught in America? That black people invented peanut butter.
Go off, Kellen.
You know, that's what we're taught. So, I don't know. That's my thought.
Yeah, I mean...
Ain't even much left to say after that.
Sorry, I ran it a little bit, but... That shit pisses me off. It pisses me off.
It's all about what I relate it to every time we have this conversation. It's just empathy. Like, that's all he needs to... MTU need to learn some empathy and just understand where some people are coming from to just... imagine, like, every time... Like, T'Challa's not my favorite character, but when I think of T'Challa, I think of you, because that's your favorite character. So what you... probably think of every time you think of your favorite character as a real human being dying of a sickness now. And so I just feel like if anyone were to really put themselves in the shoes of even if it's a real, just think of your hero and then like someone coming along and putting a traumatizing story on that hero to just, it's just, I don't know, I feel like some people need to have empathy and understand that in this, it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay if Recast T'Challa is mad, even if they are being a little outrageous sometimes. I mean, like, it's okay to understand where they are coming from. Like, it's okay to understand where not even in this situation, because I mean, like, what I took from this situation, and I'm just personally speaking on what I've seen from this tweet and everything. I mean, it's simple to see that MT doesn't really know where he comes from, what he really is or anything, or like we've been talking about, the plights that have been here for us to be able to be here today. Like, for us to be able to get here today where we're all sitting together, talking on this channel together, commenting with people from around the world. I mean, like, that just wasn't a given. That had to be earned, and I'm not just talking about from black people. I'm talking about from every race of color. Everybody had to earn their right to be here. And I mean, like, some path was harder and everything, but I mean, it's all about understanding each other's road and everything. We're not all taking the same road to get to where we're at, but it's like we all come from the same background. And so, I mean, understanding someone else would maybe help you. No, I don't want to direct it to anyone, but maybe help some people understand themselves a little better. Because I mean, like you said, I mean, like, I hate to repeat it, but listen to Eric Voss. I mean, like, it's like you sound like I personally say MT sound like the white man. That's what I'll say. Like, and that's the situation we're on and everything. It's just like, when you tell, like, you're telling a group, because Recast T'Challa is mainly black people, telling a group of black people that something they care about is not that deep as you are a black person. It's like, before you tweeted that, I feel you should have been like, wait. You know, like, maybe it is, if it's not that deep to me, maybe I should empathize and maybe try and understand why they're so loud about this, why this group is so passionate and so real life ready to go to war for a fictional character. I mean, so I mean, like, it's just, it sucks to see, like, it. I mean, like, and this is, like I just said, a fictional character, so I mean, like, I strongly doubt he knows anything historically non-fictional. And so I mean, it just sucks to see that. I mean, like, we have people that get big platforms and they're able to have a voice and everything, and they're still not really able to kind of share our story, or they're kind of still just using,
such a good point.
They're using their platform to kind of just, hey, I have a platform, but I want my platform to be even bigger, so let me eat off the spoon of what the white man's feeding me, and maybe I'll get a bigger plate. Once my plate's big enough, then maybe I can say what I want to say. But I mean, like, I mean, you've coached, you've known me, I've always been the type, I mean, like, even if you know your consequences, you say what you want to say, but I mean, like, you do what you want to do, everything has consequences, but I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, sometimes you just gotta listen to others, empathize how others feel, and really try to understand the other side of the story. Because, I mean, like, I know personally, like, I've been uneducated in a lot of areas of the world, and it makes me sound ignorant or dumb when I say some things, but I mean, like, as I sit back, get older, grow, listen to other people, and I'm like, damn, I can see where you're, that's what it's all about, just empathizing, seeing where other people are coming from, and then you'll really understand, like, it, like, a lot of the stuff we go through is deep, because like Kellen said, it wasn't that long ago, and a lot of this, like, we're still going, we have Ukraine and Russia, we have we have a lot of stuff going on in today's world that black people aren't the plight of. But it's like, if you're not even going to listen to your own race's voice, what makes you think you're going to listen to other people's? Like, if you can't empathize with your own people, how are you going to be able to empathize with others on a real level? Yeah. Not them just telling you what you need to do, or them telling you, go do this, have this opinion. It's like, no. Like, empathize with others, form your own opinions, be yourself, and like just have your stand for who you are. Like just be a person.
Yep.
That's everyone.
Yep.
But a lot of shit is deeper than what a lot of, because I'm really stuck on the it's not that deep because
that shit pissed me off.
every time I hear like it's not that deep in a lot of areas, that's usually just to play off how deep the situation really is. And it's like don't play off something that's deeper.
Something
that's deeper than like then you're coming like
you can't comprehend it. Don't downplay it. LeVon, what were you gonna say then?
I'm not gonna go in near as hard as all three of you had, but I do just want to make just a couple points. I think part of it for MT is some of it, I'm trying to think the right word, some of it not understanding, and then at the same time, I think he has a huge bias, because who is MT without New Rockstars? I didn't know who he was without New Rockstars. This guy has a New Rockstars. They have a huge bias towards Marvel.
They do,
and they have to. I don't know what their true thoughts are, but I think if they want to hold their tongues or if they don't, I think either way, they have to hold their tongues on a lot of things that they say. Now, I'm not justifying anything that MT says, anything Eric Voss says, but at the end of the day, I think, this is what's calling to them, because they get to make fucking, I remember whenever Moon Knight came out and they're coming out with t-shirts. I mean, they do it for every film that comes out. They're making t-shirts, selling Marvel merchandise and making money off it. And then I think they get to see the movies early too, and they do their early.
Their partner.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. So there's,
for sure.
I'm not, like I said, I don't want anybody to jump on me, but I think there's a lot of it
business
is a lot
money.
Business, yes. And
But that ties into what you were saying. What if in the past? What if some of the ancestors had thought about it that way?
and there were
put their neck on the line. They're throughout all of human history, and this is black and other cultures, but we're specifically talking about black people in America right now. There were those who knew that they were doing things not for their benefit, but for their kids' benefits, for their grandchildren's benefit. They knew that if they didn't stand that gap, that things weren't going to change. And there were, during the civil rights movement, if you listen to some of the people who were young black people at the time, there was a large percentage of older black people who remembered getting out of slavery, who remembered how and saying, don't stir the pot, don't do this, right. But what was that? That was because they were that's sad, because they were fucking beaten down, and they were put into that position to where they didn't feel like they could fight. And these younger kids said, Grandpa, I know you feel that way, but I'm young and strong right now, and I'm going to stand. I don't care if I die for it, but I'm not going. I'd rather go out on my feet than die on my knees. Right. And that's the kind of attitude you should have. And I understand what you're saying. I agree with you. I think that's why they're doing it. Good. But I just don't. I don't respect it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thoughts there. And like I said, like Q said, stepping on the too deep. I've said this before, but it's important to kind of piggyback off of what you said too. It's important for that strong male, masculine, black character to be seen, as we've talked about plenty of times. In other countries, we're always viewed in movies as villains, absentee, thieves, the deadbeat. Yep. The robber, X, Y, and Z. Never in a good position.
The athlete.
The athlete, the help. I've just watched The Crown and it had a nigga helping. The help. And it's like, that's why it's that deep. Yeah. It's deeper than what you are able to see at face value. People need to see us in that light, not just in America, but worldwide. Yeah. We're shrunken down in posters in other countries. Yeah. We're not even, in some countries, they don't even want our shit played. Right. Because of the negative stereotypes that stick on us because of the things, again, like Wakanda Forever. I'm sorry if you thought that was beautiful, but you know how I feel. But yeah, that's why I want to say there on the too deep thing. So it is what it is. That is what MT has said. And so you guys, let us know down below. As always, questions for you. Let us know down below in the comments what you guys are thinking of the things that MT had to say there. Are you thinking that like Chill Spot said, it wasn't too deep for him to rant about. So you guys let us know what you guys are thinking about the comments, the recent comments there made by YouTuber MT.